So good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name's Jim Ryan, and I'm the Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and I'm delighted to welcome you to tonight's Askwith Forum. We have a very special guest with us this evening, author, songwriter, and artist Sandra Boynton. I'm going to say a few words of introduction, and then Sandra will give a presentation. I noticed that when she tweeted about her talk tonight, she used the word chaotic to describe it, so I'm especially looking forward to it. Once the chaos subsides, our own Pamela Mason will pose a few questions, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. So it's not often that I get to introduce someone whom I've just met, but feels practically like she's been part of my family for 2 decades. And I say that because we have 4 kids. So Sandra's books and music have been a central part of our lives for a long time. And apparently I'm not the only one who has had this experience, given that Sandra has sold more than 60 million copies of her 50 children's books, along with several titles for adults, including her 1982 bestseller titled Chocolate, A Consuming Passion. She wrote her very first children's book, Hippos Go Berserk, in 1977, while still a student at the Yale School of Drama. This beloved counting book, which begins with a single lonely hippo and culminates in a wild party, kicked off an incredibly successful career as an author. Many of her most well-loved books, like Moo Ba La La La, which is not something I get to say very often as a dean, The Going to Bed book, Barnyard Dance, and Blue Hat, Green Hat are some of the best-selling children's books of all times. I think part of their popularity stems from the fact that they're books that adults genuinely like to read over and over again, which is not always true of children's literature, as parents certainly can attest. As Sandra began to write and illustrate books, she was also designing and selling a line of funny and irreverent greeting cards that would help to make her hippos, birds, rhinos, cats, cows, and gophers famous. Over the years, she's designed thousands of cards which have sold millions of copies, including her most well-known design, which I'm sorry to say took me a long time, longer than it should have, to figure out what it meant, even though it came on my birthday. It is, of course, the Hippo Birdie 2 U's. Think about it, you'll get it. But this is not all. Sandra is not just an ordinary children's book author / greeting card designer. She is also a musical composer and writer. She has produced and written, along with composer Michael Ford, 5 musical albums, 3 of which are certified gold. One of those albums, Philadelphia Chickens, which, as I was explaining to Sandra, was a big part of 2 summers of my life and our kids' life, is a book and CD combination, was nominated for a Grammy Award in 2003. This is not altogether surprising, considering that it features the likes of Kevin Bacon, Meryl Streep, and Laura Linney performing songs like Nobody Understands Me, Please Can I Keep It, and of course the title track, Philadelphia Chickens. In typical style, the album also includes many of her family members, some of whom are here tonight. Her most recent album is a country compilation entitled Frog Trouble and 11 other pretty serious songs, and features artists like Alison Krauss, Ben Folds, and Brad Paisley, which gives you some sense of the kinds of artists who like to work with Sandra. She's also produced and directed incredibly creative film shorts of her most popular recorded music with artists like Ryan Adams and B.B. King, and I hope we'll get to hear more about that in just a moment. As educators, we appreciate Sandra's work on many levels, from their simple, recognizable depictions of emotion to their clever word plays and rhymes that introduce young readers and listeners to the joys and intricacies of language. Perhaps in this respect, she was inspired by her father, Robert, a 1947 graduate of this school and an English teacher. As parents, caregivers, and fans, we just know we love her work and that it has left an indelible imprint on our hearts and minds. I can think of few other artists who have touched children's lives in such a profound way. Sandra, we're delighted that you accepted our invitation to come to Harvard, even though you are a fellow Yale grad. We're grateful that you designed what might be called the hip poster that was a pun, for this event, and we're grateful that you're willing to sign books afterwards. I'd like to also thank Pamela Mason, Senior Lecturer on Education and the Faculty Director of the Language and Literacy Program, who, as I mentioned, will pose a few questions after Sandra's presentation. The title of Sandra's talk is The Pursuit of Hipponess. Please join me in welcoming Sandra Boynton.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jim. You're now Jim to me. You were Dean Ryan before I. I'm wondering if we could have the house lights down. Just because otherwise we can see you and just the focus isn't on me, you know. Some of you here may know my work, whereas others are here, of course, because you heard there would be free donuts afterwards. That was certainly a significant factor in my own decision to come today. It turns out that there will, in fact, be no donuts. It was some sort of unfortunate typographical error. I understand how these things can happen. I myself often carelessly type free donuts when I mean to write something else entirely. My intention today is to give a high-speed and confusing overview of my work and show some of the many ways in which I have squandered a perfectly good college education. If nothing else, I hope to serve as a cautionary example to the students in the audience. After my slideshow, which includes a 3-minute film of mine, starring, predictably, B.B. King and assorted sock puppets, Pamela Mason and I will sit down together and she will ask me questions that relate more directly to education. If any question Pamela asks me is too hard, I'll pause and squint thoughtfully and say, "I'm not sure, what do you think, Pamela?" And then she will eloquently express a well-informed, well-reasoned opinion, and then I'll nod and say, "Exactly." Then after our conversation, we will take questions from the audience. But the rule is that the question can be no longer than my average book, which is around 60 words. Here, for example, is Moo Ba La 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 shown with its entire text, 67 words. The Going to Bed book has a word count of 114, and the entire text of Blue Hat, Green Hat is 45 words, 7 of which are oops. One could make a case that the prodigious length of the works of Leo Tolstoy or James Joyce was mostly due to these writers' woeful inability to draw cute animals. In any case, if your question is longer than 60 words, we won't answer it, and further, you are not entitled to a donut afterwards. If there were donuts, which there aren't. It's traditional to begin a lecture with a quotation. There are excellent reasons for this custom. First, it makes the speaker seem thoughtful and learned. Serious reading glasses add to this illusion. And second, a quotation takes up time that might otherwise have to be somehow filled with original content. So as my opening, I want to read to you a few lines that I've chosen from a rousing poem written right here in Cambridge about 100 years ago. Unexplained dinosaurs are standing by. This particular kind of poem is known as a chanson violon de football, which is a non-existent pretentious term that translates loosely as football fight song. I believe Emily Dickinson is particularly noted for her work in this mode. The poem goes like this. With crimson in triumph flashing, mid the strains of victory, poor Eli's hopes we are dashing into blue obscurity. Eli, by the way, refers to Yale University and can, by extension, also mean a Yale student. These drawings are based on an actual photo of some members of the Harvard class of 70 million BC, briskly singing the Harvardiana, as the work is called. This class was particularly known for their exquisite harmonies and their controversial experiments with time travel. I first encountered these rousing words as a college student in the early 70s when I was an unremarkable alto in the Yale Glee Club. I try to make sure to enunciate Yale Glee Club carefully ever since that time when we were on tour, and the hotel said they had no reservation for the Yale Glee Club. The only large group they had coming in was the Ugly Club. It took us a moment to register the misunderstanding. To be fair, having a bulldog as your mascot doesn't help the situation. The words and cadence of Harvardiana have stayed with me all these years. I admit that at first I was a little surprised and hurt that a fine school like Harvard would want to dash my hopes or anyone's hopes into blue obscurity. But I couldn't help but admire the phrase, blue obscurity. What, I wondered, might that look like? It should be something small and fuzzy and poignantly aware of its own insignificance. This is, I'm afraid, the way my mind works. You see why I would never have been able to get a real job. I realized this early on. In a way, I'm very literal-minded, and I misunderstand things easily. When someone is described as outstanding in the field, I see this. A pet peeve might look something like this. The phrase, go for broke, sounds not unlike go for Baroque. The common exhortation to express your feelings morphs readily into espresso your felines, which, by the way, is never a good idea. And then, of course, there's the basic pen and ink drawing. So as I approached the end of college and would soon be on my way to graduate school in, of all things, drama, I started designing greeting cards, the only thing I could think of to help pay my way through school. Here are 3 of my first cards. This one shows 2 roosters, one of them sporting a standard black plastic comb. The message inside is, happy birthday to a rugged individualist. And this one has a dragon blowing the candles on a birthday cake, causing them to light. The message inside is simply happy birthday. The 3rd card is an even more peculiar one. There was some foreshadowing of this in Dean Ryan's introduction. It's a birthday card showing a hippo, a small bird, and a pair of sheep, repeated a few times, and the captions under the art read, hippo birdie to use, hippo birdie to use, hippo birdie dear you, hippo birdie to use. Inside it reads, and many hippo returns. This card is still the most popular thing I've ever designed, and so my last 40 years of drawing things have been pretty much a complete waste of time. Though as you can see by comparing the 1974 dragon card with the same card 23 years later, at least I eventually learned to draw. When I first started designing cards, the world of greeting cards was completely overrun by exceedingly colorful floral paintings and such, made heavier by the addition of heartfelt corporate verse. So my own cards, spare and understated by contrast, and all with white backgrounds, quietly stood out and gained a following. Since I didn't much like the grad school I'd chosen, and I was having a great time making the cards, at the end of the school year I dropped out, and then spent the next year making cards and posters and calendars and stuff. And after that, I started over at another drama school. But I didn't really like it there either, so in the middle of my 2nd year, I quit. I did get to publish my first children's book while I was in drama school, Hippos Go Berserk. So yes, I dropped out of not 1 but 2 graduate schools. I'm guessing that Dean Ryan was unaware of this fact when he invited me to be here today, but it's too late now. What does all this have to do with the title of my talk today, The Pursuit of Hipponess? I'm kind of wondering that myself. Let's go back to the beginning. Don't panic, we're not really starting over. I'm just returning to the opening slide for a moment. The image that you see on the screen here is from the poster for this forum. I adapted this design from my most recent logo, which looks like this. It may seem lazy of me to simply reuse a design in this way, but branding, as I'm sure you know, is critical these days. So my tireless strategy is to cross-collateralize the key identifiable brand-specific imagery and messaging across all media and social media platforms in order to create, to boost sales opportunities and galvanize conversions in a fragmented market. This translates bottom line into dollars, brand durability, focused secondary reach, international, and focused tertiary reach, transgalactic. The way that you can tell that this plan of action has been meticulously researched and reasoned is because of the bullet points and special effects, and especially the big red arrow. Now, next we have a graph of the sales of my product since I first implemented this proactive branding paradigm. You can see that in just 7 short years, the impact has been truly dramatic. To the untrained eye, it may look as if something has gone terribly wrong here, but actually, looked at in a different way, the sales growth on the chart is very impressive. And yes, I know what you're thinking. I'm as surprised as you are that the Harvard Business School has not yet asked me to speak. Back to the logo. This stunned hippo in the headlights sort of look is surprisingly common in my work. I've been drawing a large variety of bewildered characters for a long time. Here's one from age 5. And this, I like the capital D in the middle of Sandra. And this kind of thing persists right on through. On posters and t-shirts and book covers and plush toys and playing cards featuring, naturally, frog royalty, and even down to the phone on my studio desk. But oddly, I hadn't really noticed how frequently my characters are perplexed. I almost never draw or write with any conscious intention of conveying any particular message. And then, not all that long ago, I came across the observation, I don't remember where, that all art is self-portrait. This startled me. So I looked back at my art over the years with that thought in mind. It was true. There I am. Yes, this is also definitely me with my legendary typing skills. And here I am again, efficiently celebrating Clean Off Your Desk Day. It may sound strange, but when I looked objectively at what I had been doing all this time, I was actually relieved and pleased to see what my work says, what self-view and worldview is implied. So here's what I noticed. Overall, it's a cautiously optimistic view, and benevolent, perhaps with some skepticism and a slight melancholy, and certainly with a degree of nostalgia. Also, it's occasionally brightly subversive. For example, there's a song I've been working on recently during these dark winter days with my longtime music production partner, Michael Ford, who is here. The song is called Rat Race. This is a sketch of the art for the songbook, and I'm going to play you part of the demo we've made. You are the first people in the universe to hear this track at all. I'm just going to play you the first verse and chorus.
And it's a beautiful day for racing rats, broadcast live from Rivertown Flats. 100 rats take off in a pack. I don't see anyone hanging back. That's rat 17 who's setting the pace. It's going to be an exciting race. Now rat number 5 is taking the lead, but rat 46 is picking up speed. Coming up fast in the outside lane, we got rat number 8, the Hurricane. Rat race, running in circles, rat race, round and round. Why they do it, we don't know. Let them loose and watch them go. Let them loose and watch them go.
We don't know yet who will perform it, but honestly, in my wildest dreams, it's Tom Hanks. Another track in progress is a wildly different song called Tyrannosaurus Funk. Sorry, I've lost my place, oh no. With a few rough sketches for the eventual animated music video. The song goes something like this.
T-Rex, T-Rex, take it up. T-Rex, T-Rex, tiny little arms. T-Rex, great big head. T-Rex, so many teeth. T-Rex, and a heavy tread. T-Rex, white t-shirt. T-Rex, rayon slacks. T-Rex, black frame glasses. These are the facts. T-Rex. it again. T-Rex, Tyrannosaur, Tyrannosaur, oh yes. T-Rex. I like this beat. T-Rex. Catchy. Here we go.
Now the T-Rex got us down around. Now the T-Rex gonna shake the ground. I can say it now like I said it before. Nobody moves like Tyrannosaur. Yeah, nobody moves like Tyrannosaur.
Nobody moves.
Thank you. And I don't know who's going to be doing that one either. Interestingly enough, the person doing the narration on that is me. We shifted it because there's a certain way I wanted it to sound, narration, and Mike and I have all these tools we can use to just go, okay, I'll be a guy for this one. So anyway, that was fun. Theoretically, what Mike and I are doing here is writing children's music. But I don't tend to say that because I don't really think of what we're doing as being age-specific. And also because as soon as you say the word children's music, people understandably get this panicked look in their eyes. By and large, my characters don't have names, or if they do, they haven't mentioned it to me. And quite often the characters break the fourth wall. They look directly at you, sometimes with curiosity, sometimes with annoyance, sometimes with cool indifference, often with uncertainty, sometimes with enthusiasm, sometimes with a notable zest for life, occasionally with hysteria, sometimes a little overwhelmed, sometimes hoping for better service. This is Florence, who lives attitudinally in my studio, and they're often confused to find themselves where they are. There have been a few times I've created something where the autobiographical core was conscious and deliberate. For example, I'm a little chaotic, as you may have noticed by now from the surprisingly vague structure of this talk. And I've always had trouble keeping track of my belongings. So when I was writing the songs for Blue Moo, an album of jukebox-era sounding tracks, I wanted to write a gentle retro blues song from a child's point of view, about losing things. The song I came up with is One Shoe Blues. No one was more surprised than I was when the impossibly great B.B. King signed on to perform the track. Here is the musical short of that recording. This is the very first film I ever directed. It's from 2008. It's about a 4-minute film.
Today. Temperatures will be in the high 70s. Right now, how about a little B.B. King? Well, I woke up this morning, couldn't find my shoe. Yes, I woke up this morning, and I couldn't find my shoe. Oh, no, the right one is here. I need the left one too. Yes, I do. I can hear my mama calling. She says it's time to go. Yes, I can hear my mama calling. She says, really now, it's time to go. I say, Mama, I can't find one of my shoes. And she says, oh no, not again. I got the one shoe blues. It seems they're never gonna stop. Yes, the one shoe blues. Oh, they might not ever stop. Mama says, just come on along now. One shoe. Do you expect me to hop? Did you look in the closet and under the bed? Yes, I did. Did you look carefully in the closet and under the bed? Yes, I did. Try and think where you left it. That's what my mama said. right here next to my other shoe. I know I put it right here next to my other shoe. I think somebody took it, but I don't know who. No, I don't. Not the one shoe blues. That's why I'm singing this song. I got the one shoe blues, and so I'm singing this sad song. It's been at least 20 minutes that I've been looking in every possible place for the... There it is. I guess it was on my foot all along. Okay, I'm ready to go now. Anybody?
Collaborating with B.B. King was the high point of my working life. And I think it's astonishing that a man of 83 could make himself completely plausible as a child, or more accurately, that he could be 83 and 5 simultaneously. As a side note, at the film shoot, which was a year after we had originally recorded the track, B.B. King's grandson mentioned the reason that his grandfather had wanted to do the song in the first place. B.B. remembered being that kid. He'd never been able to keep track of his belongings. In addition to the strong through line of bewilderment and disorganization in my work, there's also quite a lot of the corresponding sense of outsiderness. For example, this cartoon shows a conference of cows, and in the audience, one lone worried horse. The speaker cow is saying, "Okay, now all in favor say moo, all opposed say nay." Sometimes the outsider is self-excluding, such as the protagonist of But Not the Hippopotamus. Sometimes the outsider just can't seem to stay in step. And every once in a while, the outsider is quietly triumphant in nonconformity. There are also images of contentment and rest, of friendship and more friendship, love and serenity. There are drawings of belonging and finding your place in the sun or your place in the universe. This is a drawing I made for my Facebook page last August when there were fabulous meteor showers, the Perseids, and I wanted to let people know I like the mood of this drawing. And then there's dance every which way, from impromptu outdoor frolic to ballet to tap dance to two-step to high-kicking chorus line to a free-form pajama dance. Here's a dancey cover of a songbook that doesn't yet exist. Whenever I do a new book, I always design the cover first in order to persuade myself that it will actually happen. Hog Wild will be an album of dance music and will take up all of my waking hours and many of my sleeping hours for the next year or so. The Rat Race song and the Tyrannosaurus Funk song that I previewed for you earlier will be part of this wild project. And I seem to have created over time a sideline of unhelpful educational materials in diverse fields, whether it be grammar, the owl is saying home, geometry, here's a right triangle with the hippopotamus, aerodynamics, this is how you get a pig to fly, theater arts, we have Ham and Hamlet, music history, these are the famous barnyard composers, Mozart, Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, and Johann Sebastian Bach, Bach, Bach. Choreography, lepidoptery, we have the stages of metamorphosis. There's the larval form, which is the caterpillar, and the mature form, the utter fly. And paleontology, the T-Rex. And since my dad was an English teacher, he received his Master's of Arts in Teaching in 1947 from this very school, and was also a publisher of books for teachers about teaching. I drew for him some art showing progressive educational philosophy misapplied. His favorite of these was from my book for embattled grown-ups, Don't Let the Turkeys Get You Down. The teacher is saying to one of the children, "There is no such thing as a wrong answer. However, if there were such a thing, Malcolm, that would certainly have been it." I seem to also like flying things, or more particularly, things improbably aloft. This has been true since I was very little. A superhero cow, a small rhinoceros among geese, the obligatory kitty with balloons, alien cows in a spaceship, a tiny flying elephant making off with a chocolate chip cookie, a rabbit piloting a carrot. This is, of course, a hairplane. And against all odds, flying pigs. I don't really know what the implications are of the work I've found to do, but I do know that doing this work makes me happy. And I do know that Germantown Friends School, the Quaker school in Philadelphia that I went to from kindergarten through 12th grade, had a strong art-centered curriculum, that the teachers were intent on getting us to ask and keep asking questions of others and of ourselves, that there was at the very center of the school's spoken and unspoken philosophy a reverence for the individual and a belief in human efficacy and in happiness. I loved that school. I'm so lucky to have gone there. Somewhat related to this are two quotations that I love. The first is from Tom Stoppard's The Coast of Utopia. A character wisely observes, "Because children grow up, we think a child's purpose is to grow up, but a child's purpose is to be a child." The second quotation is from Samuel Johnson. "Allow children to be happy in their own way, for what better way will they find?" The final thing I'd like to show is one of the best reviews I've ever received for any of my books. The reviewer goes simply by the name Jack. He's 9 months old.
Green hat, red hat, oops. Red shirt, blue shirt, yellow shirt, oops. Yellow pants, red pants, green pants, oops. Blue coat, red socks, oops. Green shoes, yellow shoes, blue shoes, oops. That's funny. Yellow hat, green shirt, blue pants, purple socks, red shoes, oops. Wow, that was a funny.
I want to thank James Ryan for inviting me here. Thank you, Jody Smith Bennett, for your superhuman organizational work and endless good nature. Thank you, Pamela Mason, for your wise and kind guidance. Thank you, Jason DeWard and Brian Barton, for your invaluable technical help, and Angelina Berardi Lawrence for fine-tuning the poster design. And thank you all very much for coming, and I'm sorry about the donut thing.
This is a real treat, and thank you for your talk.
Oh, no, thank you for coming.
Yeah. So, I've always wondered why you pick the animal characters that you pick. They're not the typical cuddly fluffies. We've got hippos, cows, alligators, and armadillos.
Clearly, you don't have experience with these animals. They're very cuddly. They're the main reason I use animals in my work is because I really can't draw people. So that's, but it had an unintended benefit because it frees you, because you can celebrate the individual, the individuality of them. There's no extra baggage of why did you make this character this race, this height, this weight, this age, whatever. It just centers on the quiddity of the particular character, and that's very freeing.
A lot of your characters are doing very freeing things like pigs flying.
Well, yes, they eventually get off the ground. They don't stay up there as long as one would like, but they do get up there. So.
That's great. So you went to not one but two drama schools.
I did.
And so I'm wondering how your work in drama may have influenced your work in children's literature.
Influence is always a hard thing to quite pin down. But where I feel most my drama training is actually in the recording sessions. I mean, I produce the sessions, meaning, Mike, at our actual sessions with artists. Mike is the music director. He works with the people musically. I'm more like the stage director, the person working with the artist, saying, can we do that take again and in this way, or I love the way you approach this, or could you try this? And the first time I ever did this, which is now 20 years ago, but pretty far into my career, the time. I was in my 40s when I started doing music, and so the first time in a recording studio, I'm thinking, I'm not sure how to do this, and as soon as I walked in and started talking to I can't remember which was our first session, but maybe Bacon Brothers? Mike, was it Bacon Brothers? Bacon Brothers. It felt really familiar to me. It just go, oh, I know this. I know this world. I know how to work with, because I love working with actors or singers, and so I think that's really where it's come into play.
Okay, so then when did you decide that music was the next iteration of your work, from cards to books to...
I never decide anything.
Okay. When did the cosmos decide it for you? And you were smart enough to listen.
I've kept doing books since then, so it just sort of someone once told me about Afghan dogs who apparently just get incredibly lost, like 50 miles from home. And originally were thought that they just weren't all that bright. And someone said, no, it's that they're fascinated by things. So an Afghan dog, and I don't know whether this is true or not, it's just what someone told me, and so I believe it, that they just get curious about this thing, and then there's this thing, and you're curious about that thing. And when that person described it, I went, yeah. I guess I'm kind of an Afghan dog. I just get curious about things and just go that way.
Okay, great. Well, clearly you have a respect for children.
Yeah.
You like children. What do you think they deserve in literature?
I guess, don't separate children out from people. I think people deserve to maintain their individuality, to be valued for what's unique about them, deserve space and time to follow their own inclinations. So I don't really separate children out. I think that's true of people. I don't tend to think of the work I do as being just for children. And maybe that's peculiar. It's just not what it's like when I'm making it at all.
Okay.
I mean, Mike and I memorably got in the middle of Philadelphia Chickens, and we were working like crazy on these songs, and suddenly I went, Mike, I've completely forgotten this is a children's album. And we talked about it a little bit and went, oh well. We just kept going, and I don't know.
Because I think you have an uncanny way of creating what many of us think of as children's books that adults really like to read over and over and over again.
But maybe that's why, because I'm not trying to target them.
Could be. Or that we're all children at heart.
Well, but I think that's true. I mean, if there are, in putting together this talk, if there's anything I was happy to notice, it's that I think what I like about my work is innocence, and yet it's not inauthentic, and it's not silly, and there can be a tendency to think that things are funny if you trash innocence, and I think it's toxic to trash innocence. I think if someone makes a Santa Claus who's, kind of sleazy, I think that that's toxic. So I guess that's what I like about things in general, and what I like about my own work is that.
I think you've probably tapped the innocence in all of us, or that we're all hoping to hold on to.
Yeah, that's what I hope. You know.
Great. So in terms of the kind of technical quality of your work, there's clearly illustrations and words. How do you figure out where the words go, where the illustrations are? You know, how is that merged in your mind?
Oddly enough, they tend to come at the same time.
Uh-huh.
So I don't do one and then the other. There's sort of an interplay from when I get an idea for something. And sometimes it could start with a drawing, but it'll very quickly have words, or it could start from a phrase. So there's something I learned, I think that very much from, was lucky enough to take a class with Maurice Sendak when I was in college. And he was also, his work, his book, Little Bear, is the book that made me want to read as a young child. And so to take this class from this amazing man was incredible. And one thing he said that was fascinating is that in a book for young children, the picture is part of the writing. And that so that you don't want to have words that are written and then someone else just illustrates those words, that the image does some of the work of the writing. And I think that's true of stage. I think that's why I like theater so much. It's the same kind of thing. So I don't know, I guess.
Well, because in children's literature, a lot of times the author and the illustrator never meet.
And sometimes there's this remarkable synchronicity
Yes,
between them.
yes.
Which is fabulous.
Perfect. That's what one always hopes for.
Yeah, that kind of alchemy is stunning. Yeah.
All right. So, Sandra, you have written books for children and adults. You've composed music for children and adults, including Gregorian chants. You've done choral music. You've directed music videos and theater for adults. What was the most fun?
Oh my goodness. This answer will surprise my son in the front of the audience, but collaborating with Keith, directing him on a play that he wrote, was the most fun.
That's
Yeah.
lovely. Great. So I know that everybody's wondering, what is a typical day in the life of Sandra Boynton?
Oh, I'm so organized, children in the front. So methodical and organized, predictable in what I do is pretty much,
So you get up at a certain time?
Absolutely, and you know exactly, right? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
that's your cue.
I don't think I have a typical day. I don't know.
So do you get up and you like, I've got to write today, or oh my goodness, I've got to write today?
I've actually never had that feeling.
Great.
I know. I hope it doesn't happen, but I guess I am exhilarated by the work I get to do. It's so lucky to be able to just play. You know, I just feel really lucky. You know, so it doesn't feel. Dealing with music managers can feel like a real chore, but doing the work doesn't feel like a chore. It's exhilarating. Working with Mike is just incredible. We just have the best time.
That's great. That's great. So we here at the Harvard Graduate School of Education are in our second year of fulfilling the promise of diversity.
Okay.
So how does your work speak to diversity and inclusion?
I think my work is naturally inclusive. I hope that's true. I think showing the B.B. King video, here's something I wrote from my own personal experience, and that he chose to do because it spoke to his personal experience. So I don't know, is it that diversity or commonality? I think it's actually commonality at that point. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I guess that would be for other people to answer. I don't really know. I think growing up Quaker is wonderful because, the whole tradition of Quakerism is complete inclusion. So I think I was lucky to grow up that way.
That's had a big influence on your life.
Oh yeah, I think it's central.
Do you feel that's the greatest influence on your work?
I think my parents are the greatest influence on my work. I think I think the kind of childhood you have is where you grow from. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't have any good answers.
No, great. right, so we're going to open it up now to our audience, and we have microphones here. Remember, 60 words or less that have to end with a question mark. You forgot to put that part in your...
Oh, sorry, I should have, I'm sorry.
Well, we got you covered.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Yes, please.
Right, hi, my name is Ben, and I'm a master's student here. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you.
My question is, because you transitioned from focusing on drama to drawing, what made you decide to return or to go to that medium if it's not what you had been really focusing on, in your academic studies?
I actually had always been drawing. Again, the thing about going to school, I was at Germantown Friends from the time I was in kindergarten through 12th grade. And so to go to a school where you're doing all of that, as well as your academics, it's just, you're always doing all of that. So I never, I don't think I ever really stopped. So it really didn't feel like going from one thing to another. Everything I do feels similar to each other, too. I don't feel like this is a new kind of thing. It feels very related.
Great. Another question?
Shorter than this. I'm Naomi Hamer. I'm actually a children's literature professor from Canada who is really happily here for this. There's definitely a comedy in your work that you saw definitely with the response in that film. And I wondered about your process if you try out the way comedians try out jokes, if you try out any of your picture books, and definitely your music. You played it for us, but for any audience, for young people or for adults.
Well, I have 4 kids, and I really did try them out on the kids, and they're the most merciless critics without meaning to be at all. You can just tell when you've lost their interest. So I think that helped a lot to just, be involved in that interplay. They're people close to me that I trust to read. Actually, all 4 of my children still do that. When I'm done something, I just played a song for you guys last night that you didn't hear. They're people whose feedback you trust to, in a sense, come at something new and fresh, and tell you and show you also where you're wrong. I mean, where it didn't quite, where it misfired. I have people who gently tell me when something's not working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, please.
Also too short. Hi, I'm Heather Tannenbaum, fellow graduate of Germantown Friends School, also fellow lifer.
Awesome.
So excited to be here. When I told my father I was coming here today, he's a big fan of yours as well. He's been working at Germantown Friends for 40 years.
Wow.
Carl Tannenbaum. He asked me to ask you, what about GFS influenced your career, but you already answered that.
Yeah.
So I have a less good question. I know that you used to do things for Germantown Friends a lot with the chorus and doing the Hallelujah shirt, which my dad proudly wears.
Okay.
Would you ever consider going back there? Because I don't remember, in all of my years there, I never saw you visit, and I always wanted you to visit.
Oh, Devin, when did we just went? We went. When did we go? It's a while ago now. Okay, we went a decade ago.
Ah. Well, then I just
Just yesterday.
Well, you should come
I know.
back again.
I know.
Yeah. So that was my less good question. But thank
No,
you.
I love Philadelphia. I haven't been back in a long time. And next time I go, I would most likely go back to GFS. It's an amazing place, as you know. So, thank you.
Oops.
Hi.
Hi. Well,
Hi.
ask Mom to take the microphone out of the stand, and then you can hold it. There you go.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Mila, and I would like to ask, I'm sorry, how did it all start? Like, with what drawing, with what sentence, how did it start?
Oh, gracious. I don't know. My sister was a reading specialist, and when she was she was writing about children's literature and what children write as children's literature, she found a book that I had written at age 4 and illustrated. I can recite to you the whole thing.
Okay.
Once there was a funny animal. He went to a birthday party. He did not like it, so he left. The end. Now, my book, Hippos Go Berserk, is on the same theme many years later. So I guess that's the first one I know about. But are you a writer or an artist?
I have 2 series. In one, which I have 40-something books, I don't know. I started in 1st grade.
Wow.
And I didn't know how to spell rainbow, so I wrote rondo instead.
It's a good word, too. Rondo's a good word. Okay,
yeah.
Do you illustrate and write?
Yeah. Actually, I don't know. If there's a pen in my mom's purse, maybe then. And I could get a piece of paper.
Oh, good.
And
I will get your
show
autograph
you
afterwards.
how I used to draw cats.
Cool.
I was really bad. Yep.
I would love to see that. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Liz, and I have 2 young daughters, 3 and 6, and could actually recite Barnyard Dance at one point verbatim. But they also recently discovered Blue Hat, Green Hat on my phone.
Ah.
And there are TIE people here, which makes me nervous. I don't know if it's an app or an
It's
ebook
an app.
or what it's called. But what was the process of that, like transferring from the book to the app?
It was fascinating. Everyone kept saying you should do apps of the books, and I was a little wary of that. And I looked at what was out there. This is maybe, how long ago was this? 5 years ago? 5 years ago. And I looked at what was out there in terms of children's book apps and went, I don't like the field. I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to. And I'd pretty much given up. And Mike's wife, Beth, found this amazing Beatrix Potter, Peter Rabbit app that I genuinely felt was an interesting parallel experience to the book and very worthwhile. Mm-hmm. And I said, I will only work with that company. And I wrote, it's a Canadian company in Vancouver, Loud Crow. And I wrote to them and said, let's do some apps together. And we did 5 together, and it was hard work, and it was great. It was really interesting. I still have my doubts about, I love what we came up with. And I do think it's a different experience than the book. Although I do hear sometimes the kids who know the apps then get the book, and they're going like this on the book. And it was like, in a sense, like doing interactive theater almost on an iPad with them. And, and a good reading tool also. If you pushed on the word, it would read it to you or read a sentence or whatever. So it was really an interesting experience to try to do it. I'm worried about how much time young kids spend on tablets and devices because I think it does something funny to your brain. I'm no expert. This is just observation at all. Anything that will make a 1-year-old sit still for as long as an iPhone does is not doing something great to their brain, to her or his brain. This is my own opinion. So,
Thank you. Yes, please.
I think you were first, actually.
Hi, Sandy. I'm Sarah Gerald, and
Oh,
I was your
awesome! Nice to see you.
And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your sources of inspiration.
Can you be more specific?
Oh, how do you come up with new ideas that can live in different ways in your work?
I once answered this question and upset a journalist who was asking it. He said, so did these ideas come to you and you just write them down by your bed or turn on the light? And I said, no, when I go to work, the ideas come. And he goes, like a faucet? Okay, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious about things, so it's not hard to find things you're curious about and want to try. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I hope it doesn't stop. It's fun. No. So, but nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, so I'm a master's candidate in the Arts and Education program this year. And since I was a little kid, I've said I was going to be a children's book writer when I grow up. And I've kept kind of pushing that away and kind of pushing it away, and I keep pushing it away. But I have this sort of gnawing, terrible feeling that I might have to do it. And I guess what I'm wondering is, as someone who has done it successfully, do you have any advice for us kind of scared artists and writers out here wondering if we should kind of go on that endeavor?
Not good at advice. If you really want to do it, you will do it. And if you don't, it's because you didn't really want to do it. So I can't give you advice that will inspire you in that way. And I guess in a sense you'd want to ask, why do you want to do it? You personally, not anybody else. Why do you personally want to do it? What is it what's your reason for wanting to? You know? It could be any number of answers. So I don't know. I don't have advice.
I guess I mean like practical advice, though. Like drawing every day or networking or something terrible like that.
I don't have any. Okay. The path is different in everything. The path is different for everyone. And finding your own path is incredibly important. And for students and teachers here, finding your own path and helping people find their path or find who they are and who they're not is important. I have been asked, did you always know what you wanted to do? And I said, no, but I always knew what I wouldn't do. Do you know what I mean? I know what I wouldn't thrive, in situations I would not thrive or don't thrive. And so I think identifying, that, I don't know, and I feel I'm not being, there's a cynical publication that's helpful called Writer's Digest. It could, it can tell you all kinds of things about getting things published. It's done commercially. It's well done. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Miss Lita. My question is, what is your favorite book that you write in?
Can I ask you first what your favorite book of mine is that I've written?
What's Wrong, Little Pookie?
I'm really glad you like that book. It's actually one of my favorites, and I didn't know if anyone would like it. It was in my drawer for a while because it's a funny book. You never find out what's wrong. And so it's actually the book of mine that I didn't know should actually be a book. And I was so delighted when a friend of mine said, you have to publish this, and I did. I'm so glad you like it, because I have fun doing it. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you. Please.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Quinones. I worked at the children's department of the Brookline Public Library for 4 years, so you were like way up there on life goals. But yeah, just from like seeing the kids interact with your books like every day, you've kind of like become your own genre in my mind. So my question is just, what is, if you could say, your intent for your books, like going out?
Oddly enough, I think first and foremost it should be entertaining. So, people who write things to be educational, I'm wary of that. I think things should be fun. I think things should delight you. I think they should be playful. So I guess that's my intention. People say, well, is this educational? Anything that's fun and interesting is educational. So I guess that's my feeling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Inbal Alon, and I'm a first grade teacher here in Cambridge. And so working with children, we're always looking for ways to get them excited about writing, because that's often difficult or stressful for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if, as an author, if you've gotten to work with children on their writing, and if you have any ways or fun things that you do to get kids excited about writing their own stories and their own ideas.
I come from a family of teachers much more gifted in this realm than I would be. My sister ran a wonderful school for young kids, started kids writing before they could read, meaning, so if it's a drawing, if it's just the few letters you can get of a word, whatever, but the sense that you have things to say. I think, again, this is a world you guys know better than I do at this point, but my observation from the outside is that that students are too afraid to fail. And I think it's really important to get the message of try it at any age, just try it. Oh, you messed that one up, oh well, looks fun anyway, do you know what I mean? Or you couldn't make that look the way you wanted to, let's try it again, or let's try something else, I don't know. So I think if you're seeing kids who don't want to write, they've become afraid for some reason, They're not as good as the other kid is at it or whatever. So I don't know, but I'm guessing you know better than I do, you're the teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Sherry Metcalf. I've been a fan since I had Where There's a Will, There's a Way poster on my wall in high school. Yeah. And now I have 2 children, grew up with the books. And then when your music started coming out, we were delighted. And I was wondering if you could share anything about all the celebrities that you've worked with singing all the amazing songs on your albums. From, I can't even think of them all, but it was so great and what was that like? Did you reach out to them? Are they calling you and saying, can I be on your next album?
Mostly it's my reaching out to them. I should publish my telephone number because I reach out directly to artists whose work I admire.
Because you had Meryl Streep, right? Wasn't she?
Yeah. It's amazing.
And Weird Al was so
Weird
funny
Al.
on that one, yeah.
Weird Al, a duet with Kate Winslet.
Yes.
We never got them in the same room together, by the way. She recorded on this coast, he recorded in LA. I mean, Mike and I were at both sessions, but they never actually met, but boy, was that fun. So, I don't know, it's just people whose work I love are the people who I ask. And the hardest part is getting to the artist through the manager, and understandably, managers tend to be very protective and sometimes obstructionist. I don't know. It's worth waiting. I don't know. It's fun. It's so fun to work with different artists. They all approach their own art so differently, and it's fun to try to figure out how to collaborate. It's exhilarating.
And they get a chance to be like a child in the song, which is fun. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Beth, and I'm a parent. I've got 2 young kids. Currently with my almost 2-year-old, we're dealing with some animal identification issues. Her favorite book is Moo Ba La La La, and she sees a pig. She'll see a cow and she'll say moo, and then she'll see a pig and say la la la, and get very upset when we try to correct her.
I'm proud.
But that was the first book we got to actually get her to sit still. My real question for you is, if some artists and some authors do have museums, I know Eric Carle has a museum in Western Mass, if you'd ever consider a museum.
I'm thinking Boynton World. I'm thinking.
I mean, you showed the roller coaster earlier.
Sure.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ellen Seebacher. I've been a fan of yours since the mid-'80s when I first spotted one of your cards.
I have 2 kids that we raised on your books. They're here with us today.
Did they turn out okay?
They did, actually. But my personal favorite of your books, I have a lingering question and I have to ask.
Okay.
So the animal pack comes scurrying back saying, hey, come join the lot of us. And
Yep.
she just doesn't know. Should she stay? Should she go?
Right.
But yes, the hippopotamus,
Right.
but not the armadillo.
Yep.
So can you tell us what happened to the armadillo?
The sequel is coming. I'm not allowed to divulge too many details of this project at this time, but there will be an armadillo sequel by and by. It's only been 30 years since the first book, and so you don't like to rush these things.
She's a thoughtful armadillo.
That's right, exactly.
Hi, my name's Ian Jackson. I'm a parent of 3 and an aspiring children's author. I mainly wanted to say thank you just for all the laughter and joy you've brought to our house with all your books and music over the years. My question was also about What's Wrong, Little Pookie. That was my first exposure to your work, actually. I was walking around a bookstore with my first son asleep in my arms and picked that up and instantly fell in love with your work.
Thank you.
But that's the one where you actually have a sequel. You do actually have a recurring character who comes
Yeah.
back from book to book. What was it about Little Pookie that kind of stuck
Well,
with
most
you?
of my characters aren't named at all.
Right.
So that one being named. Interestingly enough, that character is neither male nor female, not identified as either one, but most people don't know that. Most people say he. There is no pronoun used. And the reason I did that is I very much wanted, if a child wanted to specifically identify, that it's you, right? It's a little hard to get around pronouns sometimes, but anyways, and then when you do 5 books like that, you just go, okay, how am I going to work around the pronoun this time? But so I guess I don't tend to do narrative things quite as much, and I don't tend to name characters. It's too hard to draw them consistently, being the same character. You got to turn to. But I guess so. It's a small series, but mostly.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, please.
I was first introduced to your work in the mid-1980s, and I thought it was tender and sweet and fun and creative. And I'm a folk rock singer, songwriter, and a teacher and a children's songs performer via vocals and guitar and harmonica and penny whistle. And I'm also a joke writer. And it'd be fun to hear how you first got your first book published, and also how you first got your first your children's music recorded or contracted. Got a contract to arrange to go forth with it.
Actually both I did an end run around the normal way. The first children's book, I was doing greeting cards at the time, and it was Hippos Go Berserk, and I had it turned down by 2 publishers. Memorably, Harper and Row, saying the author begins to count backwards in the middle of the book, and they turned it down.
They didn't think you could count?
Well, and notwithstanding that it's because the hippos are leaving. But anyway, so the greeting card company I was working with, and I was saying to them, this is so bizarre, I can't get, I think the book is pretty good, I can't, and they said, well, let us publish it. So they did. They didn't publish books in general, but they published that book. So that was actually how I started in books, and it did very well, and then it wasn't so hard to get people to take your next book. The music, my longtime publisher, Workman Publishing, I told them I wanted to do it, and they're a fabulous publisher, and they support me in whatever I want to do, and they say, if you want to do music, we're there with you. So that's how that happened. So pretty lucky both times. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your thorough answer.
Thank you.
Can someone help this person with that microphone? Thank you, Annie.
Hi, my name's Sophia. Is it difficult to make a book, like a story for a book, and then the next day make a story for a song?
It's similar. It's not that different to do a song or a book. I also think it's fun to jump around from one thing to another. I mean, it's why I said I'm kind of a professional kindergartner. You get to color, and you get to cut, and you get to paste, and you get to sing something, and then you get to dance, and then you get to go outside for recess. And so I guess in a funny way, it's easier than if I kept doing the same thing. Thank you.
Please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alex. I was just wondering, you obviously love to draw, so I was wondering what your favorite means to draw with, like pens or markers or whatever.
Oh, I like to draw with technical pen and watercolor. I do a lot of the coloring these days on the computer, not because I like to do it on the computer. I rather do it by hand, but it actually reproduces better on the computer because you can separate it out from the black line. And reproducing a black line is quite difficult because it has all of the colors in it. So they can go out of registration. So I still watercolor for fun some, but I do draw by hand. So I use a technical pen, and then watercolor mostly on the computer these days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Erin. I'm a graduate of the law school and an aspiring children's writer. And I have to thank you first. The rhythm and cadence of your books makes them very, very easy to memorize. And as a lawyer, I work late nights sometimes, and I read to my children anytime I can't put them to bed. And your books in particular are very, very easy for me. About the second time I've read them, I can tell you the whole thing. And most of my coworkers now know the Belly Button book because they've heard me say it so much.
It's a good thing. It helps for popularity in the office, as you know the Belly Button.
I want to hear your oral arguments. Will
You're
they
on.
be in cadence and rhyme as well?
That's right.
Yes, where tons of defendants stand around with bathing suits too little. No, just kidding. Just kidding. My question, you mentioned before your decision to publish a book that you had in your drawer. So I was just wondering if you could share with us what you have in your drawers now.
I'm afraid to look. I scribbled down lots of ideas and lyrics and things like that, but I rarely get back to them. So the only reason that one came out of the drawer is my editor for some of my other books was visiting and said, we should think of a new book to be working on. And I said, I'm not really sure anything I want to do right now. And she said, do you have anything, like you don't think is ready? And I said, oh yeah, I definitely have a book I don't think is ready. And I showed it to her and she said, this is ready. So, okay. So, but I think if she hadn't asked me, I don't think that book ever would have come out because I just felt it was peculiar to have it unresolved. And she convinced me that it was a good thing to have it unresolved. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
I am this tall. Hi, my name is Dawn Metcalf. I'm a graduate of Harvard's Graduate School of Education, and am actually a children's book author, though for teens. So thank you very much for the playfulness, the joy, the delight. I have been a fan since the early 80s when I stole my parents' copy of Don't Let the Turkeys Get You Down. So I very much enjoy it, and now I get to enjoy it with my children. The person before me actually stole some of my questions, so I've been trying to think of another one. I was going to ask how you translate the pen and ink drawing onto computers, because unless I could draw it on the screen, I'm not sure how to make that happen.
Oh, I just scan it in, and then there's sort of a series of steps that I had someone program for me that takes the white background out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
what program do you use?
It's actually, boy, I can't remember how this person programmed it. It's from the app company when I was doing the app development, and he came and watched me doing this, and he says I can program a series of steps that'll just go as a play that would just enhance the line, knock the white out, so it's just this button. So
So you just need that button.
You can do it like this.
Good. Okay.
So I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what he programmed, and I hope it never breaks, because then I'm sunk.
Thank you. All right, these will be our last 3 questions, please.
Hi, Sandra. I'm Maggie. I'm a graduate of the school and a mom of 2 young boys. I'm curious about the dynamic between your identity as a parent and as a children's book author. How has tales from your parenthood influenced some of the themes in your book?
Gosh, I don't know.
Should we ask them?
Yeah, so.
You owe your success entirely to us.
I owe my success entirely to my children, especially my sons, because my daughters aren't here at the moment. I don't know. I don't really divide out my life, I guess. So I guess I don't really think of myself as a person separate from their mom. I don't know.
Thank you.
I'll think of a good answer. Give me your phone. 3 o'clock this morning. I'm going to text you and I'm going to tell you what the answer is.
Sounds good. Give you my number later.
Thank you.
Please.
Hi, Sandra. I'm Catherine Kluver. I run a program on diplomacy over at the Kennedy School, but I'm here in my other professional capacity as an aunt. And so I discovered your work through my niece and nephew. And so my question is anachronistic, because what your work has really done for them, I was raised bilingually German and American. American English, its own language. And my sister's doing the same with my niece and nephew, and specifically my nephew, who's 2.5.
Right.
And so that's really because he's growing up in Germany, helping to preserve the English in his everyday. And so we all have memorized your books and just say them randomly for specific events. But I noticed that not a lot of work of yours has been translated into other languages. So I was wondering, what is it about the language, the rhyme, the texture of English specifically? I don't know if that's a conscious choice or if it just so happened.
It is. They don't translate well.
Yeah, so that's and how did, I mean, I'm sure you've been approached to have things translated in other languages than Spanish, but how did you negotiate that then?
I think they very much reside in English. I think it's the particular cadence, the particular rhyme scheme. So they're not really content based as much as, I mean, there's content, but they really are word based. And I don't think they translate easily. I've seen some good translations, and some I don't, certain languages obviously don't know, so I don't know whether it's a good translation or not. I think they reside in English.
Well, we appreciate them in English,
Okay.
so thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Our last 2 questions, 1 and 2.
Hi, just so glad to be here.
Oh, thank you.
I called my daughter, in college, and she's 19 now, and she called back immediately, and she said, "Mama, this is so wonderful."
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
And so she's safely well raised by your books, and also just thank you for making them not repetitive so much that us as parents don't want to read them anymore.
Thank you.
And I was going to say, initially, she just made a good point about the linguistic translations. And I was going to say that if you want to get around the gender, Zulu doesn't have any gender.
Okay.
I speak Zulu, so I could really do some good translations.
Wow, that's amazing.
I would happily just do it for free.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's one thing, but also another, just like last question, is there was a book, which is not your book, the book without pictures, I think it was, and it just kind of reminded me of, I think B.J. Novak, I think, wrote it. It has got like glurp and all these kind of words that the adults have to say.
Right.
That they're kind of entertaining.
Right.
And I was just wondering, because your books do have things like that, but they usually have a storyline to them.
Sort of.
Sort of. Anyway, it's like mostly a comment about that one. But in any case, if you want a translator for.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. And our final question.
Hi, I'm Zeke. You taught me how to read.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I was homeschooled, and my education was organized by fun and choosing my own way. And I've never understood how this could happen in a grade school group. So I was wondering, how did you find that at Germantown Friends School or with your own children?
Well, my own children were raised a pretty much patchwork of education, private school, public school, homeschooling, and we threw them into school in France when they had virtually no French. And by Christmas time, they had really good French. And I don't think, by the way, that's the best way. We didn't want to give them a patchwork education. We kept choosing every year what we thought was the best option for them, but I think failing to realize that through line is an important option as well. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's and there wasn't Germantown. I don't live in Philadelphia, so there wasn't a Germantown Friends option. I'm guessing that a great school like Germantown Friends is in general a better option than homeschooling because of the variety of teachers you get and the variety of fellow students you get and the kind of bizarre alchemy that happens when there are so many different people. And I don't think it can really be quantified. But that's just my opinion. I don't know.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Dina, you going to close us out?
Sure. Sandra and Pamela, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was fun. It was hard. It was hard.
We have some, Roger, we have books to be signed, and a signing will be coming here. Great. So if you have books to be signed, Sandra will sign them here.
Thank you.